So, Chad, while we're going here, this is exactly the kind of question that I have just right off the bat is right now, if this isn't done by GPS, there's no lines on this road. So how does it know? Is it using the curb? Is it using the trees? How does it know that we would be on the road if you were in auto drive right now?
Well, you can see up here where it thinks the road is, and you can see that it's predicting that. And so basically...
that's awesome.
Yeah, and as it gets closer, it's going to get a little bit more accurate, but it is struggling with this more than usual.
And this actually is also your way of knowing if you keep kind of half an eye on this, and that's veering off into my neighbor's house, you know you probably want to start taking action.
That's correct.
Okay.
And here it actually knows that that's a stop sign. That's why it sort of shrunk the line to nothing.
And it recognized the actual stop sign?
Yes.
Okay.
It recognized that it needed to stop there, but today it doesn't have the ability to stop at stop signs. Tomorrow they hope to add that.
And right now you have to drive it because what this would really do is when you're on the highway or something going straight and things, because again, you're mentioning it doesn't really use the GPS, so it's not like we can put a GPS coordinate, set it for the grocery store and have it just drive to the grocery store, right?
That's correct. If I were to turn it on right now, we would drive right into that field in front of us.
Oh, okay. Well, let's not do that.
So that is why it's pretty important that we keep a close eye on it.
Now, one of the things, because I know it'll be a while before we can get to this, is I've heard about these self-driving Ubers, self-driving delivery cars, things like that, where there is no driver in the car. Those obviously must use some type of combination where you can program a GPS destination and it can actually do everything. So do you know anything about that and how that works? Because this is totally different.
Yeah, so it uses a Lidar system, which gives like a point cloud of everything around it. But the software level, once you get kind of down to the ground level, it's still doing the same thing where it's just trying to figure out what reality is and how to respond to reality. And so at the basis, that's what they're all attempting to do, and they're all attempting to do it better than each other. That system, whenever we're talking about like level 5 and stuff like that, they are hoping to build a level 5 system, so they have to obviously have navigation built into it. And the Comma 3 actually does also have navigation built into it, so that eventually they can get there.
Yeah. Coming up ahead in about a 1/16 of a mile is going to be a roundabout. I'm really curious to see what this thing does on that.
You want to go ahead and engage it? Let's do it.
Oh boy, okay.
It's going.
Oh my God, all right.
See, now this is a good example of when radar fails, it would not be able to recognize that car.
See, right now you're driving it though, so it
I'm driving. I had to disengage there.
Okay. Was that sound that it disengaged?
That's
and you're in a
correct.
roundabout here, and you got people behind you.
I apologize. Yeah. That was the. It makes a beep letting you know that it is disengaged, and that happens anytime you correct it with the wheel or the gas or the brake.
Oh, okay. Now, did it disengage or did you disengage?
I had to disengage it, and the reason why is because this vehicle does not have full comma support. In your RAV4, I wouldn't have had to disengage it there. But in this vehicle, it has to depend on the stock system to know when there's a car in front of it, and the stock system wasn't able to detect that car.
Okay, so you do need to pay attention then.
Yes.
Okay.
And
now we're engaged now.
We are back engaged.
Okay.
On the stock system, you can see like a car here if it detects a car. So what I do is I watch for that car, and if I don't see a car there, but I see there's a car in front of me, that's when I know I need to disengage.
So unlike most people think, this really is kind of sort of like a cruise control on steroids.
That is exactly correct.
Okay. All right. That's a misnomer that a lot of people have when they hear auto driving or self-driving. But we're going to come up to a rather sharp curve up ahead. Okay. And I'm kind of curious to see how, without you having your hands on the wheel or the brake, it's going to have to know to slow down.
Yeah, it will.
It's going to be almost like a left turn.
Okay.
So is it going to know to slow down for this turn? Because right now we're going 50 miles an hour.
It will not know.
It will not know. So when you hit the brake, though, you're going to disengage it, right?
That's correct. Now, sometimes, many times, what can happen is I've disengaged just to get us down to the speed limit. I'm going to re-engage here just to kind of see. But if we had a lead car, say we were right behind that car in front of us, it would just follow that car around perfectly.
Oh.
So in many cases, even though I did just now disengage because I had to, if in many cases it just sort of copycats the car in front of it because it's just keeping a follow distance from it. So they're slowing down for the turn, therefore you also slow down for the turn.
I see. So really this is probably more, when you said you drove up here from Texas and probably 95% of the time it auto drove, it's because you're on the highway.
Exactly, because I'm on the interstate. But even around town, I do engage it more than you might think because if I can get a lead car, matter of fact, I found myself intentionally trying to get behind people at stoplights because if I can do that, I can just let the car drive itself and not have to think about it.
Maybe we should try that. So if you have a canary in front of you, a canary in a coal mine, it can lead the way better than the system can without a lead.
That's correct, yeah.
That's
and it's, in its current state, that is exactly how it works. In the future, that won't be the case. When they move up through the levels, that will no longer be the case.
Yeah, and we're going to talk more about that software part of that and get into some really good stuff with looking at network signal interpretation and potentially even, you know, if people were really good, they could, if they weren't happy with this, they could theoretically program it to do better.
Absolutely. And they could take what started and sort of diverge off of that path and make an entirely different tool that's a derivative of this.
That
we
is
call
crazy.
those forks.
I probably won't be doing that, but it sounds like something up your alley, probably.
Sure. Yeah, it takes a lot of time and effort. People who are contributing to software, open source software projects are doing it on their own time, like volunteer work. So, you know, most people that do it, they don't do a lot.
Let's make a right here. Okay. And what we'll do is we can get onto kind of more of a highway thing and let this thing sort of do more of its thing.
Yeah, and I'd kind of like to demonstrate, you know, the going through traffic and things like that.
This will be a good opportunity for sure.
I can tell you the two times where the system is absolutely shines is when you, one, are on a highway like we were saying, and two, when you're in stop and go traffic.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Based on what I've seen, I would think the stop and go is a little counterintuitive, but now I understand because you have a mark in front of you at all times.
Yes, and the car's radar system, if it already has a lock on the car in front of it, it keeps that.
Okay.
But if right now we're too far away from a car to detect it, when that car stops ahead, it's not going to detect it.
Let's make a right up here, and I'll bet that we can get a bit more of a, you know, more quality test on this. So if you're at a stoplight behind a car, when that light turns green and that car ahead of you takes off, it will sense that and follow.
Yes. And
can you manually lock onto a car?
No, it just figures it out on its own. It's always going to do it, you know, and probably an important thing that we didn't go over is the way I'm telling it how fast I'd like to go is with setting that with the cruise control. Right. And so let's go ahead and intentionally get behind a car so we can actually show how it does follow other vehicles.
So let me ask you a question here. We're going to go through this light at some point. And let's say somebody runs the red light on the other side and cuts right in front of us. Mm-hmm. It would be the vehicle's ADAS that responds to that, not the comma. Is that a fair statement?
That is correct. And so here's a great example. So if I get close enough, it will detect that that's a car. So about here, I'll hit it, and now we've got a lead car, and I'm able to follow it. So it's doing everything now all on its own.
And actually, how are you controlling turning this on?
When I set the cruise control.
Okay, so it's connected through the cruise control.
Yep.
Oh, and look, it sees the extension line based on the vehicle in front of us.
Yes. So now that we have this lead car, if they were to stop, it would respond and gently brake, etc.
Now, what if the car pulled off to go on the freeway here, and we didn't want to go on the freeway? We have to react to that?
It will just drop that lead car and take the next one.
Okay, so this is programmed to basically go straight.
Yes.
Okay.
And so since I've engaged it, now that I have a lead car, I've been able to go and have no disengagement.
So you have done no engagement with this vehicle whatsoever.
Yeah, that whole drive under that overpass.
Yeah.
All that was the car doing it. In the RAV4, though, it probably wouldn't have needed that many disengagements. That's a disadvantage of the Honda.
And it's because the ADAS, the Advanced Driver Assist System, in the RAV4 has more features and more advanced capabilities that this can integrate with that allows that more functionality.
Yeah, in a way. Really, all it comes down to is its radar system on this car. It just keeps its information to itself, and then it says drive forward or brake. So the Comet can't tap into that data because it's not telling anyone. On the Toyota systems, it's telling them. So it's able to tap into that point cloud, that radar point cloud in front of the vehicle, and then the Comet itself is able to use that to position the vehicle for you instead of having the stock do it.
Could you theoretically, using your programming capabilities, modify this for this vehicle through the open source?
Yeah, so what one could do is you could actually take that module out, and you've seen modules before, just like an ECM or PCM, any of those. It's another module. It's just going to look like a metal box. And what some people have done is they will actually flash new firmware, and they will set it to do new features that it wouldn't otherwise do. Now, myself and the Comet team are actually against that behavior because they don't want anyone to have to make super advanced modifications like that to their vehicles, as well as that if anything goes wrong, a coding error on your computer just means that, freezes Windows, you reboot. Coding error on a car is totally different ballgame that could put someone's life at risk. So
sure.
Yeah, so the features that this uses are all fully tested by the automotive manufacturer. Even though it's steering it for you, the commands it sends to this steering wheel, it cannot physically overpower the strength of a human being because this was tested at the factory, and it's just not able to.
I want to see how it
that.
reacts with this car making a right turn, and you're not doing anything.
I'm not doing anything.
And now we lost our mark.
Yep.
And it's still doing this all on its own.
It's doing it all on its own.
Now it has no mark, but it knows to go straight.
That's correct.
That's pretty cool. That's actually really cool. The other thing I did notice is, unlike my sort of modified, self-driving that I do leveraging the safety systems, is that this actually does an amazing job of smoothly turning, and it's proactive. It's not reactive.
Yes.
So it's not losing off the lane and then correcting. It is actually maintaining straighter in the lane than probably even a really good driver would do.
That's correct.
It's doing an amazing job of that.
Yes, it centers the lane probably better than I can, because every time I check, it's like I'm perfectly between the two sides.
You don't feel any correction. It's just very smooth, like a person.
Here's a very complicated one. Let's see what it does.
Yeah, because we got the marker line on the right.
Oh, it wasn't sure, but it figured it out.
It did figure it out. It did figure it out. You could feel a little correction.
Yeah, it was a little unsure at the beginning. That was a fantastic test.
Was that because the line was dotted?
It was like, because as you could see, it was like there was still remnants of a lane line.
Yeah.
And they kind of added over top of it a new one. And even in some situations like that, I get confused as a human.
Well, So I was going to bring that up. If we go another mile up, there's actually road construction, and they have redrawn lines. So there's going to be a situation where you have the old lines present, but then new lines that you are supposed to recognize and follow.
Yes.
And I'm not so sure that this is going to be able to do it. It's going to at worst, it's going to no, strike that. At best, it would disengage. At worst, it would follow the wrong lines.
At worst, it would follow the wrong lines.
So you need to be responsible to look on your screen to see if it's following the correct lane markings.
That's correct.
Out of the two sets. Now, this is kind of scary for me. Is it braking itself here?
Yeah, it had the lead car, but I got concerned as well, so I hit the brakes. Just because I don't fully, even though I very much so trust the system, there are some situations where I'm like, I'm just not comfortable. It'll probably be fine, but I just don't feel comfortable.
Yeah, I think it's going to take people a long time before they would really, truly be comfortable letting a car drive itself. But
I found that as I was using it when I first got the device, I was way more scared. Now that I kind of know how, it's almost like having a second driver with you at all times. It's almost like we work as a team to drive this car. It's very interesting, the dynamic there.
And you're responsible still for maintaining speed limit. It doesn't maintain speed limits or anything like that. Now it could, because if with the GPS, of course, most people who have a GPS in their car, it knows the speed limit on a particular road.
That's the automatic emergency braking. Did you see?
Yes, I did see that.
When it knows it needs to stop faster than it can stop, it will give you that warning. Sorry. So what was your question?
So the question is, most GPS devices are capable of knowing the speed limit in a particular area. And I was wondering if they can maintain speed limit based on that.
Yeah, so as you said, that is possible to do by having map data, and it does have a GPS in the unit, so it can do it, particularly in a comma 3 where it has the built-in navigation. But this unit definitely will not obey any kind of speed limit. It's just based on what you set the cruise control to.
And again, typical of a cruise control, we had a situation there where the lane ended, and of course, it's going to maintain straight.
Yep.
So you have to, like with cruise control, you have to do that correction. So
yeah, there's a little bit of a chicken and egg thing going on. They need the data of people turning and choosing to go here instead of there and stuff before they can actually take that and have their data scientists turn that into a machine learning model to drive the car in a more sophisticated style. So that's part of the challenge that they're having to overcome, is basically they need the data so that then they can create a device that is capable of it, but it won't be capable until the software gets there. They got to collect that data first, and that's sort of what they're doing right now.
It doesn't seem a huge jump to me to be able to program a GPS coordinate in here that it would have known that that lane is going to end, and that it has to go straight because it knows the GPS coordinate. That doesn't seem like a very far jump.
Absolutely not. The capability is already there. I would guarantee you that they're able to do that if they so desired. The thing is, they do not add features to this until it is 100% solid and it's going to work really well.
Because of safety.
Yep. Now there was a disengagement also because of the Honda. One thing that a lot of people complain about is it's not able to turn the wheel very sharp. On Hondas. On Toyotas, that would not have had that disengagement.
So, Chad, I do want to ask one question, a little bit of a challenge. I'm definitely impressed with this. This is actually amazingly awesome. But one thing I'm thinking is that there's probably a lot of people that are watching that are thinking, well, man, there is a lot of babysitting on this thing. And why would I want to spend all this money and effort installing a system that it seems to me you're constantly having to still drive the vehicle an awful lot?
Yeah.
Can you maybe answer why this is still, because you love this and you talk very favorably about it. Do you not mind the babysitting, or is the babysitting less than people think? You know what I'm saying? Can you address that question a little?
Yeah, absolutely. So one is, it absolutely is a lot of babysitting. In certain driving scenarios, it just makes more sense to not even have it on.
Okay.
So
cruise control.
there are definitely times where it just makes no sense. And the scenario we were in earlier, I would consider one of those scenarios where I would probably just drive. What makes this significant, though, is I never realized how much driver fatigue I had just from having to center the wheel. And so, if you think about it, I normally, whenever I'm on a road trip, gosh, I get a few hours down the road and my butt hurts and I can't wait to to get there, and my eyes are watering. It's very difficult. And so I get to that point pretty quickly, and I actually went almost the entire drive here and I had no fatigue. It was the only thing is that I was tired, so I stopped and got a hotel. I could have gone the entire 12 hours easily because of this system. I would have never been able to do that without this as a solo driver.
Yep, makes sense. I'm also going to bring up, because I know everybody is going to comment on it. We went through a red light. We went through a red light. So can you comment a little on why that happened? What could have been done to prevent that using the software as opposed to you seeing? Because we needed to manually stop that car to not run a red light. It appears to me that the system did not recognize that we were going through a red light, and I'm also worried about a safety feature on that. Can you comment on that? Just again, we're just
absolutely.
We're kind of I'm not attacking the system by any means, but we're just bringing up some of these things that, again, these are the concerns people will have. The car is going to run a red light.
Yep. And just to be very clear, it's a well-known problem in traffic engineering to sort of, where do you sort of draw the line as far as how long to wait until it turns red. So you've always got this weird zone of, I'm not sure if I should stop for this red light or go through it as it's yellow. And so the system as it is today will absolutely run through that red light. There's nothing that's going to stop it on red lights. It was my responsibility to stop it. I didn't, because I thought that, by my estimation, which was a little bit off, that we had long enough on that yellow light.
Okay. So the system isn't responsible for that at all. The system
that was me, and if I would have gotten a ticket, I would have fully taken ownership.
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna ticket your comma.
No.
But the right way for me to say that is not that the system went through a red light. It is that you went through a red light.
I went through the red light.
Got it.
That was me.
That's good. Just out of curiosity, because you do seem to know so much about this, how does a true auto driving system, like the self-driving Uber without a driver, how does it know how to negotiate that timing? Do you know?
It, just like any other sort of machine learning model, it's basically going to figure out, okay, it wants to know the state of that light ahead. And so it's going to use its vision, its whatever the case may be, to figure out, is that green or red? Once it has that information and it knows the light just turned from green to yellow, then it's going to have a calculation take place where it says, okay, I can brake at a maximum of this many, meters per second, whatever the case may be, whatever the stopping power, maximum stopping power is for comfort, and it will probably calculate it based on that comfort. And that would be an algorithm that does that.
Would it potentially speed up to make the light?
I do not believe it will, because it will probably already be going at its fastest available speed.
Oh, that's right. It's probably not going to break the speed limit.
Yeah.
That would seem right. And this whole time that we've been talking since that, I've noticed you have actually been on the auto drive.
Yeah.
So it actually does do quite a bit on its own, for sure.
That's correct.
All right, so coming up here, Chad, we're going to make a right here, and this road is going to be what I would think is going to be an extremely tough negotiation for your comma. It's going to be very windy without consistent markings, and I'm curious to see how it acts here.
Yeah, and this may be a case, like, I haven't driven this road before, so It's kind of hard for me to know right now, but oftentimes I may just drive through these areas on my own. Just depends.
We're going downhill, so maintaining your speed limit's going to be a little bit of a problem. It's very windy. There's a lot of roads crossing here, so you got interruptions of your markers, your lane marking. It would seem to me that this would be. So, are you steering it now, or is it doing?
I'm having to steer it.
Okay.
That turn, both of those turns were beyond the torque limit of the Honda.
This is going to be complicated.
Yeah.
So again, there's just times when, in a case like this, going downhill through a very hilly area, it's just better to just drive the car.
Yeah. Actually, if I had a Toyota, it probably would be different for that. Particularly if we were going uphill, maintaining speed is simple uphill, of course.
Sure.
And so with the Toyota going uphill, I think I would have done that with no disengagements. But with the Honda, I probably would just drive.
So I want to ask one last question that I'm wondering, and that is on a true self-driving car, like the self-driving Uber, that kind of thing, if there was an object in the road or something where there is no way that the algorithms are going to be able to negotiate how to get around this, a tree falls in the road, something like that, and it just cannot figure. Maybe it's thinking there's a car in front of it and that car is just not moving. Maybe there is a car in front of it and the car stalled and died, and it doesn't have a way of knowing this. How does it know after a certain amount of time that it needs to back up, go around this thing or whatever, but it's really not going to be able to know because it doesn't know what the situation is? How would a self-driving Uber continue its path, or would it have to call for help or something? By the way, we're going to make a right after the gas station here.
Yeah, so I can tell you in Phoenix, they're doing full self-driving test cars, and occasionally they do get stuck. And so what would happen is the car autonomously will call for help, and a person will come and they will actually get in the vehicle and drive it manually. That's one of the challenges that have to be overcome to reach full level 5 self-driving vehicles. And I'm not entirely sure that there won't be some sort of requirement to give the human a choice, because let's say, for example, your GPS is telling you need to go straight here, but the road is completely closed. A rational human being would not say, well, I'm going to sit here and wait until the road opens again. They're going to say, okay, we need to find another way. And it might not be that it's closed. It could be that there was a serious accident that just, it stopped, and it's obviously we have to make a choice. And even as a human, I would have to deliberate between, do I wait for this traffic to clear up, or do I take a different route? There's a risk trade-off there, and I don't know that the right thing to do would be to have the car make that choice for the human.
Well, you may also have no choice if there is a police officer that is waving you around into the oncoming lane of traffic to go around it. I don't see that your self-driving Uber is going to recognize that situation.
Yeah, I think it would probably have to kind of get stuck and be locked up until somebody told it what to do.
Here. And is there the possibility that maybe if the car has cameras all around, somebody remotely with a joystick or something could control it like a video game almost? Or is that a little bit space age? I'm
sure the capability is there. I'm not sure that they would choose to do that, but I'm sure the capability is there. As a matter of fact, the road tests they do for comma involve using a joystick to steer the vehicle on a closed track. They have development tools, and that's one of those development tools is you can actually use a game controller to control your vehicle.
Oh, excellent. Well, we're going to probably go ahead and just head back home, so we'll just keep going straight. Actually, your car is already doing that. And we'll maybe come up with a couple more questions, and then we can wind that down. And what I'm also thinking is you keep an eye on the comments section, and I'm sure there's going to be, we'll keep going straight. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people that will have questions on this, and I'm going to leave it to you to answer those questions in the comments. But I'm sure there'll be quite a few.
Yeah, I'll be glad to answer any questions that anyone has. And, you know, things are progressing really quickly, so some information might get outdated, and we'll be glad to try to keep you all updated.
All right, well, that was actually really impressive. That was really cool. But what you're saying is that with the technology on a later vehicle, it can be way more impressive than that. And I'm actually curious to put that to a test. So you are offering to let me borrow your system. You're going to install it and walk the viewers how they would do an install. And you're going to put it on my RAV4, and you're telling me that that's going to be a completely different experience.
That's correct.
Well, let's do it.